It's almost noon the following day. I'm gonna take out my loops because when I'm wearing my loops, I can't seem to be able to speak either loud enough or not too loud. I mean, this is the hair you'll see me rocking throughout this video. I mean, throughout the summer, because my hair is not coming down. I mean, of course I take it down to wash it and when I take a shower and stuff, but I am not wearing it down in this heat. There's absolutely no way. The only thing I want to do in the summer is shave my head. So, but I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm gonna keep it in this shape that I don't really know what it's called. I was up until, I want to say 3 a.m. last night, and I got up around 11. And that's because I had a massive panic attack last night. Like, I think one of the worst panic attacks I've had in a long while, from what I can remember. It was rough. Again, I was on the phone with my partner pretty late into the night, even though he'd been up since 5:30 in the morning. And with the time difference, it was the equivalent of 1 or 2 a.m. for him. So he'd been up for almost 24 hours. So I felt really bad keeping him up. But also I felt like I needed to talk to someone because I was scared of, I don't know, what might happen. It just didn't feel safe to be alone, even if technically I was alone, but whatever. And he wanted to make sure that I was okay. And like I said yesterday, it's very hard not to feel like a huge burden in those moments, especially when your significant other is halfway across the world and they have to focus on their own things and they have their own struggles going on, and it can make you feel really guilty. I felt really, really bad last night. At first I was like, okay, I think I'm not gonna have too much anxiety tonight. Like I said, usually lately, those anxiety spikes have been happening around 8, 9 p.m. And it was already 11. I was like, I'm feeling fine compared to the other days. It came on so fast. It came on out of nowhere. It was wild and I felt so bad, both physically and emotionally. I did the most I could to try to regulate and calm myself down. Ironically, I didn't want to be left alone because I was scared of what might happen, but at the same time, talking to my partner felt almost like too much because he was trying to help me, but in those moments, any external input feels like one more thing to deal with, and I needed to really focus on myself. So at some point I had to be like, okay, I'm gonna end the call now and try to regulate. I needed a moment to reconnect with myself and do some breathing exercises and stuff. I know I've talked about ASMR in my last video. There's another playlist that I swear by another creator. I can't remember what she's called right now, but it's an anxiety relief playlist. It's amazing, and whenever I have very bad anxiety, that's what I use. So that's what I did last night, and it helped. It always helps to some extent. I went outside, but it was like 16 degrees at 3 a.m. So it was actually too cold. I had to take a blanket with me outside on the hammock and stuff. I was like shivering violently. It took a long while, but I managed to calm down enough to be able to fall asleep. I'm feeling quite tired. I think the reason why I had this massive panic attack last night is that I've got too much on my plate right now and not enough spoons to deal with it all. Does that sound familiar? Last night my partner was telling me, like, tomorrow don't do anything that's not essential. Focus on you and the cats, looking after yourself. Like, the rest doesn't matter, you know. Even if the water turns bad in the pool or some plants die outside, like, it's okay, you know. Like, the most important is that you and the cats are okay, and like ditch the rest and focus on self-care and stuff. And I feel like I really needed to hear that, because sometimes with my rigid thinking, I will either not allow myself or just not even think about the possibility of dropping certain responsibilities because I struggle to prioritize things sometimes. And so to have this external reminder of like, it's okay to not do certain things so you can focus on yourself, that was really helpful. So today I'm gonna do exactly that. I'm gonna focus on keeping myself fed and hydrated, keeping the cats fed and safe, and I'm going to probably order in tonight so I don't have to cook twice. And I'm not gonna use the pool. I'm not gonna take care of the pool beyond turning the pump on and off and maybe checking the floating dispenser tonight. That's it. I'm not uncovering it. I'm not using it. I'm not testing the water or anything like that. I'll water the plant tonight if I have the energy. Everything else, I'm not worrying about today. I'm going to focus on doing things that regulate me, playing relaxing video games, listening to ASMR, maybe go for a nice walk, maybe go watch a comfort movie, that kind of thing. Stimming also. This panic attack and more generally this anxiety I've been experiencing at night is my body sending me a signal lately that I need to listen to. This whole business with the pool I didn't think would be as overwhelming as it is. You know, I thought we'd set it up and then it would be like minimal maintenance. In some ways it is, but even that is too much for me, for my brain to handle right now. And it's the thing that I feared of, like adding more on my plate than I can deal with. You know, at this point, having used it twice, I'm not sure how I feel about the pool still. I can't tell if it was worth it or not. I think it's too early to say. Maybe once there's an automatic timer on the plug so I don't have to worry about the pump, I have a better hang of like the water levels. We install some lights outside, some shade against the sun, and I get a new swimsuit because the one I have is too small. Once we do all that, maybe it will feel like it was worth it. And also my partner will be able to help with the maintenance when he comes back. But at this point in time, I'm like, I bit off more than I could chew, basically. And that's the tricky thing, is you're trying to help yourself, right? You're thinking, well, I struggle with the heat, so I'm gonna get a pool to cool myself. And that's how you think about it. You think, oh, it's gonna be a regulation tool for the heat and stuff. So you're trying to help yourself, and in trying to help yourself, you actually overwhelm yourself even more. But you can't know that until you've done it. That's been a lot. And also the trip to New York for my partner was a lot of stress. So that there's just been a lot these past couple weeks. Been going into town more, just a lot more for my body to handle. And I think it's saying, hey, stop, I can't follow, I can't keep up with this. So I'm gonna listen to it. But it does feel like as I was saying, a never-ending cycle, because you think you're doing better, you think you're helping yourself, and actually all you're doing is worsening your meltdown, and you don't even know it in the moment. It does feel like I'm gonna be stuck in burnout forever. I'm not gonna think about negative or anxiety-inducing things today. I'm gonna focus on the positive, and I really hope that these panic attacks are not gonna keep happening like that every night. Because honestly, if they do, especially with the intensity of the one from last night, I'm seriously considering starting antidepressants again. And that's saying a lot, because I didn't have a good experience with them the first time I tried, and I thought I would never try them again. But the sheer distress I experienced last night, I don't want that to be a recurring thing in my life. So if it doesn't get any better in the next few weeks, I'm definitely gonna consider some kind of medication or something, because I have no idea how else to help myself in those moments. But hopefully by taking things easy during the day, letting go of as many responsibilities as possible, it's gonna be easier. And when my partner comes back in 4 days, he'll be able to help me again with the chores and stuff. So I've just got to hold on, you know. Yesterday I got a request for a cat sitting job. In case you don't know, I have never had like a full-time job, but when I lived in London, I started doing cat sitting on a platform called Cat in a Flat, and I did that for a few years, and it was amazing, and I made a little bit of money from doing that. I absolutely loved it. It got me outside the house. It gave me a sense of accomplishment. It meant that I could hang out with cats and sometimes other types of pets as well. I was really enjoying it. When we moved out of London and traveled for a bit and then moved back to England, but to the countryside, I didn't have as many clients. I had a couple clients that gave me a job here and there for the 2.5 years that we lived there, but it wasn't much compared to what I had in London. And then we moved to France 10 months ago, and I haven't had any jobs here yet. I've had a few requests, but it didn't work out because they either went with someone else in the end, or it was too far for me because I don't have a car, so I have to do everything on foot. This is the first time that I'm getting a cat sitting request, and it's actually a job that I can do, and it would mean that I could make a little bit of money, and it's in August. So I'm crossing my fingers. There's a bit of a administrative issue because I'm being asked to provide my tax number, which I don't have. So I hope that this isn't gonna stop me from getting that job. I've contacted the platform, but like my executive functioning is so bad these days. It's really hard for me to get things done. I'll look at something and be like, it's the skill regression that often happens in burnout, right? Autistic burnout, where you're like, it's something you used to do, no problem. And now you look at it and you're like, I don't even know how to do this anymore. I don't know where to start. And it feels overwhelming, and you just want to throw everything and run away. That's what a lot of things I've been feeling like lately, including getting my tax number, my taxpayer number. I don't know. Because I looked into it yesterday, and usually I'm pretty good, with websites and figuring stuff out administratively. It's not something that I struggle with too much. I love like filling out forms and things like that, and I could not even begin to figure it out yesterday. It is really debilitating. Like, I really need people to help me with things that I usually can handle on my own. And same thing for daily things. Like, I'm so forgetful. I struggle a lot more doing things. It just feels like my brain is running on fumes, like I can see the smoke coming out, and I forget things that I wouldn't normally forget, and it's just a whole struggle. But anyway, so I'm hoping that this cat sitting job works out, but it got me thinking yesterday about how much of a struggle it is for me as an autistic person to meet the cat owners for the first time, because when you get a cat sitting job, usually a new cat sitting job, usually you'll go meet the owners of the cats, they show you around, they explain things to you. After that, you're fine. You can, when you visit the cats, the owners are not there, obviously, that's the whole point. So it's fine, it's that first encounter that's really, really anxiety inducing. In the past, before I knew I was autistic, I thought it was just social anxiety, and I would try to push myself and stuff like that, and which I don't do anymore because I know that's pointless, and instead I try to accommodate my needs. But one of the things I did to accommodate myself was that I would ask my partner to come with me. And I consider that an accommodation now, because I have higher support needs. There are a lot of things I can't handle on my own. Meeting new people is one of them. The amount of anxiety it gives me, exhaustion from it all, is just not worth it. Having my partner there with me allows me to, have a safe person whose presence reassures me, and also the focus isn't entirely on me because he's there as well, and I can look at him, which means that I don't have to look at the other person all the time. and he can handle some of the conversation because he has lower support needs than me, and handles social interactions better than me, and he's better at masking and everything. So it's a huge help having him there. But I used to really, again, feel really guilty about asking him to come with me. And now I consider it an accommodation for my disability. So we work around his schedule to make sure that he can come and stuff. Doesn't mean that I don't feel guilty at all anymore, but at least I know why I'm doing it now. Yeah, I was just thinking about all that, and because it's been a while, like I said, it's been a while since I've had a new cat sitting job, so I'm out of practice. I haven't seen a lot of people in a while, apart from, waiters and stuff like that, people in shops. Having an actual interaction with someone other than my partner, it's been a while. And so I was thinking about all that, and the ways that I can make it easier for myself in those moments, because not only do I feel extremely anxious when I go meet some cat sitting clients, my heart is racing, I'm sweating like crazy, and I know I'm gonna stink even if I shower and put on deodorant right before. I'm gonna stink by the end of it because I'm gonna sweat so much and I'm gonna shake. And of course, I'm very socially awkward. I don't mask well, so people can clearly tell that I'm different, and that makes me self-conscious.
Now playing low. T-played by Florida.
Siri, stop! My god, I hate it when it does that. This HomePod I've had for 3 years, I think, and sometimes it does crazy things. So I was saying, I'm very socially awkward, and there's a lot of awkward silence, but the things I struggle the most with is eye contact, which is very difficult. So I'll find excuses to look away. I'll look at the cat. ChatGPT also suggested that I bring a notepad and a pen, which I thought was a really good idea, because that way I can say like, oh, I like to take notes, on how to look after cats and stuff, and that gives me an excuse to have something in my hands that I can possibly stim with, and also an excuse to look away from them and stuff. And the other thing I struggle with is, as an AFAB person, I'm expected to smile a lot. We're socialized and conditioned to smile a lot. As someone with a pretty flat affect, whenever I have to smile and it doesn't come naturally for me, or it's not like a sincere smile, especially if I'm anxious, my face, like especially my cheeks, my mouth, everything starts to shake. I've talked about this a lot on my channel before, but it's one of the things that make me the most self-conscious. And I've had that, I think, since I was a teenager, maybe because there was more stuff expected from me socially, I don't know. But every time it happens, I can just see the other person's puzzled face as they look at my mouth and they're like, what is going on? What is wrong with this person? What's happening? And that puts so much focus on me, and I just want to melt into the floor, and disappear. And it's horrible. And so the thing I need to do in those moments is find a way to look away and relax my face. But it's not always possible, or it looks weird, or whatever. So yeah, it's all these things that make it really difficult for me to have interactions with new people. It's not so much finding things to say, although there are moments of awkward silence, as I said, but that's not what bothers me the most, because usually the other person will say something, or I have a script, of the things that I'm supposed to say in those moments and stuff like that. So it's not so much the things I say, it's my body language and how I appear and everything that's really anxiety inducing. And so I was thinking yesterday of how I could make things easier for myself. So yeah, bringing a notepad and a pen I think is a great idea. Having a discreet stim toy in my pocket that I can fidget with. Bringing my partner with me if he's available. I don't think I'm at a point yet where, especially in France, where I can disclose my diagnosis or even, hint at my disability, because I'm just not sure how it's going to be received, and I don't want to be discriminated against or anything like that. In the past, even before I was diagnosed, I've had cat sitting clients where I said afterwards, like, oh, I'm sorry, I was really awkward, I'm very socially anxious and stuff like that. People understand, even when I say, can I bring my partner with me, I don't say why. I just say, like, he loves cats, but I'll be the one looking after them during the booking and stuff. They're very understanding. I've never had anyone be like, no, you can't bring him, or like someone not hiring me because I was too awkward, that kind of thing, But yeah, I was thinking about how when I went to the dentist in England and I was upfront about my autism diagnosis, how much it alleviated some weight and how I felt like I could unmask more, because I'm always gonna appear different and weird to people and awkward. But if they know why I'm like that, it makes the whole thing less weird, because they're always going to find me weird and different. And if they don't know why I'm weird and different, their minds are going to go to different places, and it's not always good places, Some people have a lot of negative ideas on people who are socially awkward or whatever. Like, you hear a lot of crap, right? Well, this person is not trustworthy or whatever. But if you have a reason that you can share for why you appear so weird and different, then people are like, oh, that's why. Then okay, then their imagination doesn't have to go places that I don't want them to, And that gives me permission to be more openly myself. But with people in this kind of context, I'm hesitant, because I don't know what kinds of ideas they have around autism or disabilities in general, and I don't want that to be used against me and for me to not get the job because of it. So I don't think I'm at a point yet where I'm comfortable sharing my diagnosis or anything like that, but definitely making the most of the accommodations that I have at my disposal can make the experience a lot less anxiety inducing and a lot less exhausting. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about yesterday. I think I'm gonna make myself some lunch, and then I might start editing this vlog, and I'm gonna chill this afternoon and not stress myself out with things. Okay, catch you later. I don't know if you can see very well, but this is my lunch today that I just whipped up. For some reason it took ages for the water to boil, so I made some instant sesame ramen noodles, which are so good. Added a couple eggs in there, they're sort of poached, and then a cucumber and sesame seeds on top. So that's gonna be my lunch, and tonight I'll probably be ordering a pizza or something, because I really can't handle a lot of cooking right now with the amount of spoons that I have. So this is gonna be it for today. This is all the cooking I'm doing today. It's about 5 in the morning. I managed to not get a panic attack last night, which I was very happy about. Yeah, I looked after myself yesterday and managed to keep my anxiety under control. I've just been woken up over and over and over during the night by, random noises and stuff, and then a huge clap of thunder that was so freaking loud, and there was some lightning, and I was expecting a storm, but not tonight. It was supposed to be the following night. Then there was some hail, and I started having a panic attack again and hyperventilating and stuff because I was scared for the pool and everything, and I ran around the house closing every window. It's just been a lot. So I'm downstairs with the cats, hanging out with them. Thankfully, they don't freak out too much when there's a storm. I need more comforting than they do. I'm playing with them a bit now. They're very alert because they're crepuscular creatures, so they love it at dawn and dusk. The sunrise is an hour away. It's recommended to wait 30 minutes since the last thunderclap to reopen the windows and stuff. It's very stuffy inside. I just made myself some chamomile tea and trying my best to regulate. I'm charging my phone as well because it was almost out of battery. And in case there's a power cut or whatever, it needs to have enough battery so that I can keep in touch with people. But yeah, that got me really scared for the pool and everything, and started freaking out. Hopefully everything goes back to normal. I can go back to bed and get a few more hours of sleep. Sleep is very important to make sure that I remain regulated and sane. Just gonna play with the cats a bit more, hang out with the cats, then I'll reopen the windows, go back upstairs, try to get to sleep again. Oh, what a night. As you can probably tell, I feel very energized. I'm not tired at all. It's about 10:30. After the storm, I went back to bed and got an additional 4 hours of sleep, which I definitely needed, and had to yank myself out of bed because I needed to look after the cats and close all the windows before it gets too warm. And also, I'm expecting a delivery from our usual online shop of vegan products. That's where we get our tofu, our tempeh, our vegan products, Beyond Meat products. Stuff like that. We make an order every month to every month and a half. Today's the day, and they always give you a 3-hour window of time for the delivery, which means that usually I can't do anything during that 3-hour window. I've made several shorts about it. It's always for the vegan delivery. For some reason, if I'm expecting an Amazon parcel or anything like that, and I know I'm gonna receive it that day, but I don't know when, it doesn't stress me as much as being given a 3-hour window. I feel like if you're gonna give a window, you gotta give a smaller one. Because 3 hours is a long time and it paralyzes me, and then I don't know what to do with myself. But anyway, so I managed to get myself out of bed. Absolutely didn't have the energy to shower or anything like that. You know how you feel when you've only had a few hours of sleep because you had to get up early to catch a flight? That's how I feel. I got up, fed the cats, and let them outside, made myself a cup of tea. My god, it's hard to even talk. All I've been able to do since then is lay on the couch and try not to fall back asleep. Oh my goodness. Things were off to a great start last night. As I said, I did not have a panic attack. Woohoo! I really did my best yesterday to avoid it, and it worked. But I still had an awful night because I was woken up so many times. I got so scared by the storm, which there is still a severe thunderstorm warning in my area since this morning. The warning is still on, so I don't know if we'll get more thunderstorm today. Hopefully not. The way I'm feeling right now got me thinking how it's easy for my brain to recognize that I need some rest when I feel like this. So when I am like super exhausted and when I don't have the physical energy to do the things that I should do, that's when my brain is like, oh yeah, that's the signal that we've got to rest. But I need to recalibrate my brain because I need to receive that signal and I need my brain to go, hey, we need to rest earlier than that. You know, before I'm completely exhausted and don't have the physical energy, because that's too late. That's not sustainable. I guess a neurotypical person would register the early signs of fatigue and be like, okay, I'll take it easy. But maybe because of low interoception, maybe because I masked and pushed my way through life for 26 years, I don't have that thing that neurotypicals have, that I'm assuming that they have. I have to literally not have the physical strength to get off of the couch for me to go, all right, this is serious enough, I need to rest. No, that's too late. You should have done something about it before you got to that point, you know? Like, obviously this is different because of what happened last night and I couldn't have done anything about it, but got me thinking about the other times when I was this tired during burnout and I finally allowed myself the rest that I needed. It's like, until I get to that point, my brain's like, you're still good, you're still fine, you can keep going, you don't need to rest. So yeah, I've got to recalibrate that in my head. I did start editing this vlog yesterday and it's a long vlog. It's gonna be a long vlog. I don't know if it's gonna be all in one video. Usually when a video is longer than 45 minutes to an hour, I will split it in several videos, but I don't know. I might experiment with posting a longer video, like more than an hour, however long this is gonna be, and see how people react to it, because I don't know if it's good for the algorithm or whatever to post something with several videos. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I'm gonna continue editing the vlog today if I have the energy, hopefully. Last night I got some pizza. I got 2, so that first of all I don't look like I'm alone when I get my delivery, because I don't want to send a signal to the whole neighborhood that I'm alone at home. And also it meant that I didn't have to worry about cooking for 2 meals, which is a huge relief. So I'm gonna have them either for lunch or for dinner, depending on when it's the most needed. My partner's doing well. We've been able to catch up here and there. You know, when it's the end of the day for him, or like early evening, it's like around the time that I go to bed, that kind of thing. He's having fun. You know, that's how I know that we definitely don't have the same support needs, because I would not be able to do what he is doing right now, and a lot of the things that he does in life, actually. And it's not a question of like that I'm limiting myself or that I'm not trying hard enough or whatever ableist bullshit some people might think in society. I'm not saying you think those kinds of things. You're a very supportive community, but we grow up hearing these things, right? I know that in my case, it's not about that. I know that if, thanks to some miracle, if I manage to get an online job, like a job like my partner has, working from home, and I was able to keep it, which probably wouldn't because I'd been in burnout within a few weeks, but whatever. Let's imagine that I could get a job like that and keep it up. And then I was invited to go on a work trip like him. I just don't see how it could happen, even if I tried to do it. Hang on, I need to get open the door for my cat. Alright, let me get into a seated position just so my body can register that I'm awake now. This is daytime. We're not sleeping anymore. So I was saying, even if I tried to go on that work trip, because a few years ago, if I'd had this opportunity, I would have definitely been into this whole thing of like, I know it's hard for me, but I need to push myself, I need to get out of my comfort zone because you know it will get easier over time, and that kind of ableist bullshit, right? I have pushed myself to try similar things, not nearly as close to that, but similar things that I now know are not good for me because of my disability. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. It's not a matter of like, yeah, it's a bit tough and I need to recover a lot afterwards, but I can do it. No, I can't do it. I tried to imagine realistically what it would look like for me if I were to go on a trip similar to my partner. Again, if we imagine that I have a job. First of all, the thought of getting on a long haul flight on my own to another continent already terrifies me. But I've been on flights alone before, short flights. Yeah, so that part I could handle. I think it would be really overwhelming and exhausting, but I think I could handle it at great cost. But then once I would get there and I would be expected to hang out with a bunch of colleagues I've never met before, people from work, take part in all these activities and go to all these meals, work together and stuff, I would shut down and melt down within the first day, within the first few hours. And I'd feel so awful that I would do my best to like go home as soon as possible. And I'm not even exaggerating. The closest thing I can think of that I did that was similar to this was when I was 16 and I sent myself on a week in a horse breeding farm. Because at the time that was my special interest, that's what I thought I wanted to do with my life. And my father and I had started a farm. We had bought a mare and she was expecting and whatever. And so I went to this farm for a week. Within a couple of days, I had a nervous breakdown in one of the stalls in the stables where I was cleaning the floor, whatever, replacing the straw on the floor and stuff. I broke down in tears and I could not for the life of me fit in with the group or interact with people, to the point where I was so like frozen, not knowing what to do, that I was, you know, people implied that basically I wasn't very well educated because I didn't take initiative in the group of like, I don't know, getting breakfast ready or whatever they wanted me to do, because I was just so paralyzed by being in this unfamiliar environment, surrounded by unfamiliar people. And some of the people were very outgoing, very confident. They had very big personalities and they took up a lot of room, and I felt like there was no room for me to exist. And there was some sort of unhealthy competition among the people, the young people who were volunteering or working at that place, you know. It was during the winter holidays, so yeah, it must have been February. In those types of farms, the horses start giving birth very early in the year. It was around the time that the first foals were expected, and I was there mostly for that. Honestly, I hadn't even asked, like, are you gonna get a few births this week? That's what I was there for, you know, because I was learning for our own farm and for my own special interest. And there was a lot of competition between the people for like who gets to assist, who gets to witness those moments, those births, you know. I was so like withdrawn and like didn't understand how to express myself or like take up space or whatever, that the woman who owned the place, she owned the place with her husband, she noticed it, came to my rescue, you could say. She was like, any volunteers to assist the birth? And she knew how passionate I was and why I was there in the first place, right? And I could not raise my voice or say anything. She called my name and she was like, do you want to go or whatever? And afterwards she pulled me aside and she was like, you need to like speak up in those moments, otherwise other people are always gonna come before you, and that kind of stuff. And like there were so many awkward moments, and just I was able to deal with this relatively well because it was related to a special interest, because it wasn't work, it was a volunteering situation. I was only visiting for a week and then I wouldn't have anything to do with any of these people. And I was 16. I still had a lot of energy. I think I was a particularly energetic kid and teenager, like person, early in my life. And I don't mean that in a hyperactive way. I mean that in like, I had so many resources to push through and keep going and endure situations that would have been exhausting for other autistic people. I did not experience burnout as a child or as a teenager. I just had a lot of energy resources, which was also my downfall because I just kept going until they were completely empty, and now I have to take a long time to recover them. But yeah, I had a lot of energy still at 16 and I was completely unaware of anything, and I was masking and stuff, but it was already like huge for me to do something like this. Right now, in my current state, with my current energy levels, with my current support needs, as someone who was diagnosed late and depleted all my resources, and also as someone whose complex trauma manifested itself since then, I could not do something like this anymore. And that's why we say that, support levels fluctuate over time and they're not set in stone, and yeah. And the DSM-5 doesn't reflect that. But I'm definitely not capable of doing the same things I was capable of doing as a teenager. Not even close. And if I was asked to go on a trip like the one my partner is on right now, like I said, it would be absolutely terrifying to me. Like the thought of finding myself surrounding by a bunch of strangers in an overwhelming place like New York, like sensory wise, and having to do small talk and having to no. I wouldn't be able to like blend in seamlessly. Like I've been in plenty of situations like these where my partner gets along with people. He's able to put on a very friendly persona, you could say. Not that he's not friendly at his core, but like he can really like mask basically and appear really friendly, and people love him and stuff. He has a lot of endurance in social situations. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't struggle, because he will experience a great deal of fatigue afterwards, and like he will probably might even shut down at some points and whatever. But overall, I can tell that he doesn't struggle nearly as much as I do. And I'm thankful for that, because if we both had higher support needs, I don't know, life is already a struggle as it is. If he also needed more support, I don't know. I don't know how we would do it, but I have been in plenty of situations where my partner can appear holistic and can appear friendly and people like him, and he does and says the right things and stuff. He might be a little awkward, but he won't, he'll always have something to say, and he will make sure that there's no awkward silence. He will make sure that people get what they want. I don't know how else to explain it. And I'm there, and I don't say anything, and I'm like not engaging with the people basically. And even if I do engage, it's very minimal and it's at great cost. That's the thing with masking, why I'm not able to mask more. I don't know how to say this without sounding like somehow that I'm better than the people who are high masking, because that's not what I mean, and it's a lot more complicated than that. But I have noticed that people like my partner, who are able to mask successfully, are able to do so because they don't care about authenticity as much as I do. I sound so pompous when I say that. I don't know how else to say it. In those moments, I probably could have like the cognitive abilities to mask, if that makes sense. Like, it's not that I'm not capable of it, it's that it hurts too much. It hurts my soul. I don't know how to explain it. It's so weird. It's like there is a form of PDA that gets triggered in those moments, you could say, where I'm like, I know what I should do right now, what I should say. I know what's expected of me right now, and I'm not gonna do it. I can't do it. I can't give these people what they want. And it's like, I have no control over that. And it feels like a life or death situation. I don't know. It feels like it's just, it hurts my core too much it feels like I'm betraying myself. I don't know. It's so weird because it's like things that you don't typically put words on, you know. It's like a very visceral thing. It's like I'm betraying myself by acting in ways that are not natural for me, that are not me. Anything that isn't me, I've always rejected. And again, it's not a matter of choice. That's just how I'm built, I guess. I have always rejected anything that makes me feel like I have to change who I am in some ways, which is what masking is. I do the aspects of masking that basically have nothing to do with my identity. Forcing eye contact and like monitoring my body language. It's exhausting, but I can do it. You know, it doesn't feel like I'm selling my soul, you know? Having to pretend I'm someone I'm not through conversation or like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And someone like my partner is able to do that. I'm not saying it's easy for him. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt him in some ways, because he definitely does, because he tells me all the time how, you know, he doesn't really know who he is deep down and stuff. But at least he's able to do it, which is why he's able to have these work opportunities and like he's able to do them. Like, I really want to emphasize that there's a difference between being able to do something comfortably, being able to do something at a cost, and not being able to do something. Those are very different. And like the first one is like an holistic person, the second one is a low support needs autistic, and the third one is a medium or high support needs autistic. You know what I mean? That's how I see it, at least. An holistic person would do these things, not even think about them. Like, they would be at most a mild inconvenience. Like, they'd come back from the New York trip and be like, oh, I'm a little bit jet lagged. But the next day they would go out with their friends and go back to work. You know, that's an holistic person. A low support needs person, autistic person, might be like, okay, that was a lot. Like, I had to take frequent breaks and like I had maybe a few shutdowns, and I'm definitely gonna need a few days at least to recover, but they can do it, you know? I'm overgeneralizing, obviously, but that's what it feels like to me based on, like, if I compare my partner and I. And someone like me with higher support needs is like, I would not be able to complete the thing. I would break down before the end of it. I would not be able to maintain the mask. I would have a mental breakdown and have to come home after a day or two. There is just no other way. Then I'd probably end up quitting that job pretty soon because of the way that made me look, and like having to interact with those people again. And like I said, anything that goes against my core self, I can't maintain very long. So if I was able to mask to some extent in the job interview, and then I was hired, the fact that I would not be able to maintain the mask that I had in the interview, and that I would appear to be a completely different person or whatever, would like be too much for me to handle, that I'd end up quitting for probably. So yeah, it's interesting to think about these things. Someone in the comment section was saying how the support needs labels are sometimes not very good because they give like false impressions. You know, a lot of low support needs people feel like the low support needs label makes them look like they don't have needs, they don't need support. And this other person was saying that's because they compare themselves to holistic people, not other autistic people and whatever. Anyway, it was an interesting debate. And like also how some low support needs autistic people feel like they have to prove their struggles because they're labeled low support needs and stuff like that. And some people in the autistic community will not take their needs seriously, you know? Yeah, I think it's very important to remember that low support needs doesn't mean like you're still disabled even if you're low support needs. And, you know, you're still gonna struggle because otherwise you wouldn't have a disability. Duh. It's just not the same level of struggle that a medium support needs person would experience or a high support needs person would experience, you know? It doesn't make your struggles any less real or any less serious or important. It just means that realistically, you're gonna have an easier time doing some certain things than I am. That's just how it is. It doesn't mean your struggles don't exist, they're not real, they're not valid. It means I have more. I mean, it says it in the DSM-5, right? Low support needs requires support. Medium support needs requires substantial support. High support needs requires very substantial support. So you need support. I need more. A high support needs person needs even more than I do. Despite all my struggles this week, I've been able to stay alive, you know, and keep the cats alive and stuff. Maybe if I was a high support needs autistic person, I might not be able to be left alone for a week, you know. I would need someone with me 24/7. So compared to a high support needs autistic person, I'm very independent. But compared to a low support needs autistic person, I'm very disabled. And again, we're all different. It's not as simple as breaking things into 3 categories. There is overlap, you know, there's gonna be level 2 autistics who work, level 1 autistics who don't work. It's not always very simple, but I feel like there's an element of intuition to it. If you're level 2, I feel like you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it because you're gonna look around the autistic community and be like, I'm not like that. Like I wouldn't be able to handle that, you know, like, which is why, you know, Dana Anderson was saying how she didn't recognize herself in a lot of the autistic content creators online because most of them were low support needs, you know, and I completely get that. I just think we need to have more, you know, understanding and compassion for each other in the community. Poof, I went far with this. I went to the other side of the planet with this. Like, it woke me up, so that's a good thing. Just one more thing I wanted to add about this discussion is that's why I think someone like my partner might be less likely to go seek answers because they're able to like make do. Their support needs are not so great that they can't handle life at all. That's why a lot of low support needs autistic aren't diagnosed ever, or they're diagnosed very late or whatever. There's also like access to the right resources and stuff. Of course, it's not just about their struggles, but I feel like someone like me who has more substantial support needs, more substantial struggles, will seek answers. You know, like it's inevitable, you know. And someone like my partner might not seek answers because they can seemingly function like everyone else, you know. They can have a job, they're not so disabled that they can't function at all and like be like, okay, I need to figure this out. So maybe they're less likely to go looking for answers and eventually land on a diagnosis, which is why I was the one who self-identified as autistic, and then my partner recognized himself in the traits. If I wasn't autistic, if I hadn't done the research and found the answers, I don't think my partner would have gone looking for them. He might have found out by accident later in life. There are probably a lot of medium support needs, level 2 autistics who get diagnosed later in life. I'm not saying like we get diagnosed super early compared to low support needs autistics, because it's not that simple. You know, we don't always have access to the knowledge and the professionals and whatever, or have access to diagnosis. What I'm saying is it affects how likely you are to go looking for answers. My partner never struggled as much as I did. He didn't feel the need to be like alright, I need to figure it out. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I should trust that I have said what I had to say, and the people who can understand will understand. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say, is like, I'm gonna repeat myself one more time. Someone like my partner probably wouldn't have found out they were autistic if I hadn't done it first and been like, hey, that sounds like you a little bit, you know? That's also why a lot of parents get diagnosed after their kids, you know? And I'm not saying people don't seek out answers and not get them, because for, you know, I can imagine a lot of people who were diagnosed much later in life did seek out answers and just didn't find them, obviously. I'm just saying that's an observation I've made, is like someone who has lower support needs and who is able to mask their way through life and accommodate themselves to some extent might not necessarily ever seek out a diagnosis. I know of several people that I know personally or not whom, you know, display very obvious autistic traits. I'm not saying they're definitely autistic, but they seem to have built a life around their needs that seems to work for them. And I don't think they would ever need to seek answers unless they were in burnout or whatever. But they probably won't end up in burnout since they've built a life around their needs. Does that make sense? Whereas someone like me who's not able to build a life around my needs because they're too great for this society, I am gonna feel extremely disabled and go looking for answers. Like, I don't want to dismiss anyone's struggles, but I see a lot of low support needs autistic people who get diagnosed in adulthood. From what they're sharing online on YouTube, it seems like the diagnosis kind of landed at their feet and they're like, well, it's nice to know why I felt different my whole life. And I'm like, that's it? That's it. And that's kind of like how my partner experienced it as well. And I'm like, we're not in the same dimension, I think, because it almost sounds like you could have continued your life not knowing you were autistic and you would have been fine. It's just nice knowing you're different. Like, sorry, that's not my experience at all. Like I don't think I'm not sure I would still be alive if it wasn't for my diagnosis. You know what I mean? Like, you know, some people will say like the support needs labels shouldn't exist or whatever. I think there needs to be a way to categorize people's needs and struggles, because I clearly am not on the same level as someone like my partner. Like, it's obvious to anyone who knows us, even people who are not super familiar with autism, you know, like, it's obvious that I'm a lot more disabled than he is. And no, it shouldn't be a separate diagnosis, but I think we do need something like the support needs labels, because we don't have anything else at this point to be able to say, hey, I need more support than this other autistic person. So I think we do need them. I'm not saying they're great. There's room for improvement, definitely. I think we could make them a lot better and a lot more nuanced and a lot more realistic, but I don't think we should say like, oh, let's just get rid of the support needs labels and we're all just autistic. Yeah, you might feel that way if you're low support needs and you can somewhat function in this ableist society, but if you can't, then you'll need those labels to be like, hey, I can't do this, I can't. Like, I need help, you know? I went into a whole philosophical debate. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. That's the one negative thing I have to say about Meg's latest video about autism levels. Because I thought it was a great video, but towards the end, she said something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But also, I respect that that's her perspective, but I also think it illustrates how a lot of low support needs autistics don't realize their privilege. She was saying how, you know, like the support needs labels are flawed and whatever. Fair enough. And then she was like, personally, I don't feel like I need a label, and I don't identify as level 1. I just say I'm autistic and whatever. And I was like, okay, but that's because you have low support needs. You're able to make a living with your YouTube channel. You're able to function a lot better in this society than a lot of us in the autistic community. And so, yes, you might not find the support needs labels useful for you because you have low support needs. Does that make sense? Like, I guess the privilege of being low support needs was very highlighted in that video, and I don't think she realized it. I think in that moment, she kind of assumed a lot of people in the community feel the way she does. But from what I've seen and from my personal experience, a lot of medium and high support needs autistics strongly identify with the labels because we don't have anything else at our disposal to say, hey, I need substantial support, you know? And I think that's also where some of the animosity comes from in parents of higher support needs autistic kids, is they see low support needs autistic adults kind of criticizing support needs labels and saying how they're not useful or we should get rid of them and whatever. And they're like, hey, like we need them, like my child needs it to get the support that they need. So maybe you don't need them. That's good for you, like good for you, you know, but a lot of people in the community need them. And until we have a better alternative, then we're going to keep using them, you know, just putting that out there.